Okay, members of council, we're going to call the meeting back to order, and we are starting off with the Corporate Services Department agenda. And the first item on the agenda is a delegation by Lowell Reuben Vaughn. Oh, there he is. Okay. And this is 8.1, which is a presentation on the Association of Municipalities of Ontario annual conference.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, to the committee. I recognize that this presentation was supposed to come in a couple of weeks, but I missed you. I missed bothering you about AMO. I missed talking about AMO, so I figure why not have just one more kick at the can for today. But before I start, I haven't done this yet, but I really need to take a moment just to thank and acknowledge and show my appreciation to the entire staff that really supported me to help you gearing up to the AMO. As you can imagine, this takes a lot of people and resources from across the organization, from communications to those who are leading the Game Changers, to those who are supporting the strategic plan, to the corporate leadership team for allowing me to access those resources. We really worked hard to ensure that you had the most comprehensive package that we could provide you to ensure that you were as well equipped before going to AMO. And through you, Madam Chair, I also have here that I should also thank Council, in particular to those who were part of our delegation, but if you may, I may need to apologize for my alter ego, Reuben, for perhaps being a little bit too regimented and a little bit too stern, trying to organize everybody, but I really want to thank you. You really made my job really simple, and thank you very much for taking the time over the summer to not only read all the materials, the briefing notes, the supplementary materials, the brochures, the proposed speaking notes, but also being engaged and asking questions and seeking clarification. I think that really made for a really successful delegation during the conference. I was fortunate to listen to the discussion this morning and the presentation, as well as the bold decision. And I think thinking about AMO, it's amazing how quickly the story can change in terms of where we were at AMO and where we are today, in particular around the university and our vision for innovation, collaboration, and education. I think we've turned a new chapter, and I think now we have a lot more to go to the province with that we didn't have back then, but I think we now have a real go-forward plan to really press the province on our vision going forward. So what I will do is I'll go through this relatively quickly, happy to answer questions, but what I really want to focus on is what we've done since AMO, because I know I've heard that a couple of times, and I want to make sure that you're aware of the action items that we've been able to progress so far. Ministry of Natural Resources, this was really to advocate for the provincial's commitment for Riverwalk. I think the minister was really engaged. I think she was very appreciative of the city's recognition of climate change and the impact that it has on infrastructure. And one of our asks for there was, would the minister be willing to come to Brampton for a personal tour? So we are working with her office now to actually try to find one date, but also an alternative date, just in case weather doesn't work out. So we are following up with her. And staff is also working with the counterparts at Municipal Affairs, as well as MNR and Forestry, on some of the background work that needs to be done. Ministry of Transportation, we had a lot to jam-pack into a 15-minute meeting. One of the longer discussions was around high-speed rail, and I think we know how the minister responded to that. But I think we need to take a look at what else we heard during that meeting. We heard that the minister is still committed to bringing two-way all-day go. He mentioned between 2024 and 2025, so that's one thing that we wanted to have committed to. He also mentioned that this is in addition to the high-speed rail, so it's not one or the other. This high-speed rail is in addition to the two-way all-day go. They're in negotiations, from what I read this morning, going very well with CN to move the freight off the Kitchener line and to advance the missing link, which again is something that we've been advocating for and which is really positive, which should also help bringing two-way all-day go right through to Bramalea, which is something else that we were, Mount Pleasant, which is what we were asking for. Sometimes when we go to AMO, we're not always asking for financial commitments, but what we are asking for them is to come with us. Again, falling back on the discussion this morning, something bold. So we did plant the seed around the 407 and 410 opportunity lands. So the minister did acknowledge that he is willing to work with us, and we have a follow-up meeting with MTO in October to start talking about another bold vision for the City of Brampton and how we need to work with MTO, not against each other, but within partnership. Advanced education and skills development. I think there was a rather lengthy discussion this morning on that, so I think we all know what we heard from the minister's office, both on the 1,000 students as well as $180 million. But again, I think what we also heard, kind of, if we take a step back, it's, she also said that this is what Cabinet has approved right now. So we do need to work with our provincial partners. We do need to work with the federal government, and I think we can start to change the conversation with both, especially as we go after some of the additional funding. Ministry in Research and Innovation and Science. We have to keep in mind that the PA is also the PA to the Ministry of Transportation, so I don't think she had a lot of delegations on research, innovation, or science. So I don't think that she was as prepared as she probably should have been. But I think towards the end of the discussion, it was quite positive in terms of starting to explore partnerships and identifying who within her ministry we can work with to start building those opportunities to collaborate with her ministry, as well as strengthen partnerships with economic development and growth. And we know that Bob and Michelle, through their work, they're working very, very closely with all those individuals. Municipal affairs. Again, this one I would probably say the PA wasn't as informed as we probably would have liked, especially considering how long this discussion has been going between the City of Brampton, the Region of Peel, as well as with the province. The chair, Councillor Miles, was also asked a question during the minister's forum directly to the minister. And again, I don't think you really got a direct answer. It's kind of more, here is where the process, especially through Bill 68. So we have been following up with both the ministry staff as well as the minister's staff and the PA staff, because when we left, it was really, they finally found the expediency that needs to be done here. So we are trying to coordinate a meeting with both individuals, hopefully sooner rather than later. We're just waiting for a return phone call. We had an opportunity to meet with both leaders of the NDP and the PC party. We provided them with all the information, the briefing notes as well as the supplementary information. But we really focus on two issues: regional governance as well as the healthcare, and this is in particular to the emergency urgent care center wait times in Brampton hospitals. I should also point out that we did work really closely with William Osler Health System. They helped us provide a lot of the information. On that particular issue, I think both parties were very sympathetic, and they seemed to kind of hit their political wheels started to turn a little bit, and were very open for us to work with them. So we are following up with both, and I have a meeting tomorrow with the PC party actually to think about next steps and how we strategically want to use the opposition parties to advance our needs. And then on the second issue, it was on governance. Again, they were sympathetic to our needs, and they did take solace in what we were asking for, and they were willing to kind of push, and I believe Ms. Horvath also said she's willing to nudge the government as far as we would want to push them. Keynote addresses. I'm not going to speak about what's on this slide, but other than to say the focus was, it was kind of like a little fireside chat. The focus was on AMO's What's Next program, and the next phase is really starting to highlight this 1% tax increase to the HST proposal. So this 1% is dedicated to municipalities and would be dedicated strictly to address the infrastructure gap that municipalities across Ontario are addressing. To that question, to the moderator, their answers were, we're not willing to increase the HST at this time. I don't think heading into an election year that's a big surprise. But if you look at some of what they did say, each party leader is actually looking at the importance of municipalities, but through the provincial municipal fiscal service delivery review, they really saw the benefits that uploading services to the province can have on the provincial property tax base. So things like uploading roads, recreation, sports, hospital funding, reinstate the transit operations. These are all ways that while the leaders aren't willing to commit to the 1%, what they are willing to do is at least look for opportunities to free up some tax room for municipalities. Lastly, or I guess two more slides really quickly, tomorrow I'm doing a debrief with our staff. Just really want to make sure, what worked, what didn't work well, how can we improve the process. As I mentioned, we're following up on all the action items. we're really trying to work with our game changers to formalize our asks with the game changers, and I think that was very prevalent this morning with the university. How can we ensure that our asks are aligned with the strategic direction that they're going? And the other thing that I've heard is really more frequent status updates, not just once in a while, but kind of more regular and frequent updates to council in terms of what are the progress we're doing. Some of it will be on the staff side, but it's also reciprocal that we also need a better appreciation of some of those political discussions that are happening as well. That's it. So thank you. I had to thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gibson?
Madam Chair. Lowell, thank you very much for the way you and your staff have prepared us for this. I think that's the best preparations I've seen going into a conference like that. So I thought all the delegations on our part of it we were very well prepared for it. I appreciate that. Sorry that Councillor Moore and I missed the picture with Patrick Brown there. I know we were a couple minutes late. We just missed that picture. We were
with the regions.
We were rushing from a regional one to get to the city one and happened to just miss the picture, but that's not a big deal. In terms of, not criticism, but in terms of going forward, your report doesn't really touch base on everything that we did in there. And maybe in the future, maybe you could send us an email. Those of us who were there, send us an email and say, is there anything you wanted to add in there? Because here's a couple of examples of things. There's a lot of stuff going on in the trade show that you may not even know about, but I know for a fact that Councillor Bowman and Councillor Willens, had a lot of conversations, a lot. In fact, when we dragged them away from one of them, with a lot of those things in there, and probably learned a lot of things that they might want to, touch base in there. You and Harry dragged us to a couple of pretty good things. Like we saw a remarkable garage that Harry made us walk a long ways, and I couldn't keep up to his legs. I tell you, to get to see that garage, that's a remarkable thing that maybe something we learned, something we could learn from. I know you took pictures of it that we should really put in a report and say, give it to our planning department, our design guys, and all that kind of stuff. So next time we're doing a parking garage, look at this type of thing. I think that should be in the report. And Harry, you took us to Lansdowne Field. They still call it Lansdowne. I mean, yeah. Remarkable place. That was basically I think your words were like a slum area around it, and it's really remarkable. Something we did while we were all there that we probably should have touched the base in this report about, because it's important to do. I have to say, I can't go by without saying how disappointed I was in our reception, that in the way we were treated, particularly on the regional governance thing. I mean, it was confusing. It was really confusing that we did exactly what they told us last year to do. They didn't seem to know it. Like that was terrible. And if you recall, I remember saying that we need to report back, and thank you for reporting back so quickly, because we need to report back right away and have a step forward. And I don't know what we're going to do, because we're running out of time in this one. So I'm suggesting that if we don't have an answer back from them in some way that they're going to do something, if you remember I said at the meeting, just say yes or no. Just say you're going to do something, you're not going to do something, but tell us. So I'd ask for you to report back to us at least by the end of this month and say we've heard back or not heard back, and then council, if we don't, then we're going to have to either make a decision to move forward in some way on our own, or just sit back and let nothing happen again. Because to me, that's what it seems like they're doing. They're just letting it slide by, hoping to get by themselves another election. For those who weren't there, it was really remarkable that they didn't seem to know what they had asked us to do a year ago. And we did everything they asked us to do. And they were suggesting to us, this is just to do it again, to do this. And we're saying, but we just did. Don't you know that? We told you this. So anyway, they promised they would look at it and then get back to us. we can't wait, there's no sense waiting till December for them to go back to us. I had a question on that to Peter. When would the drop dead date going to have to be that the province would have to make a decision, or not a decision for the next election?
Through you, Madam Chair, the legislation says that the municipal council must make decisions on its governance structure, i.e. its ward system, by the end of the year, by December 31st in the year preceding an election, which is December 31st of this year. And that would include any possible appeal mechanisms and resolutions of those appeal mechanisms. That would not preclude the provincial government, as a senior level of government, from unilaterally enacting legislation, which could straddle into next year. But that's in the hands of the province, those actions.
I think that's what has to happen. The province has to do it. I mean, we've run out of time now. We really have, unless the province steps up and does it. And if they don't, I know what my action's going to be, but I like it to be council's action. And we can't sit back and let this happen to us. We've sat back too many years and let this happen to us. Too many. You know, and they've known all along at the province of what we wanted, and they're still not doing it. The university presentation, not the presentation, but the response we got from our presentation was very disappointing. I think we all walked out of that room and went, holy cow, we just got our backs turned on us. So, you know, I think you pointed out that what we did today is maybe the next step. So let's jump on that now and get right back on them and say, okay, here, you know, enough's enough. This is what now, here, look at this. And we need our partners that were sitting in the room, the two head ones, to be right behind us to say, because I know they want the same thing we want. You know, we had that beautiful conversation today, a very positive thing, but, you know, that the minister was very blunt about what we weren't going to get and what it was. And to me, it was very disappointing to hear that enrollment's down across Ontario, but we're going to be doing this anyway. That made no sense to me at all. So I don't want Brampton again to get the short end of a stick. I didn't want to say anything today because that was a good positive announcement that we were doing today, and a good positive report. But we just can't sit back and let things happen to us. And that's what we have a history of doing, I believe. We need to be bold like we were this morning and step forward and do what Hazel McCallion is known for doing. If you don't do it, you'll be sorry. That was always her attitude. She didn't mind taking on the province when she wanted something right for Mississauga. Well, we know what's right for Brampton, so let's not sit back and let nothing happen. I know that. I'm not sure what else I want to say, but thanks a lot for the way you prepared us and how we went through all that, because I thought we were very well prepared. I thought every one of our presentations, we did a good job, and we were well prepared. Every one of them that I was involved in. I think I went to all of them. And I want to thank you for that, because that's a testament to you guys setting us up for that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Lowell?
Through you, Madam Chair, if I can just make, thank you very much for all your comments, Councillor. So duly noted about, following up with the delegation to kind of bolster up the reporting back, but I should also mention now that there was also a number of education concurrent sessions, and in fact the ones that I was able to go to actually influenced one of our discussions today was around the cannabis, and the province was there, so there is a lot of learning outside of those 15-minute meetings, so it's reporting back on the full picture it's well noted. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Willens?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. No, I just want to reiterate what Councillor Gibson said. Thank you very much, and thank you, Harry. It was a learning experience for me, being the first AMO. I thought you two brought the team together very well when we were there. I think our presentations were as good as we could do, considering what we're working with from the province. But no, it was a lot of fun. And Harry, the invitation's open again next year for golf. We got to defend our championship, and thank you, Lowell, for coming out when nobody else would, and bending your ear with me. So it was good. It was a good conference. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Pleshet?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, I agree that, Lowell, you really did an excellent job in keeping, some politicians in line, and I know that's not an easy task, but you did fantastic. And Harry, you were fantastic out there as well, with all the contacts that you have out there, and just watching you walk through hallways yelling at people from across the was really good. If I can make one suggestion, I think we talked a little bit about it at one of the meetings, is I think we need to have some more staff there. And I don't know what that number is, and I don't know who that is, but I have meetings set up with some of the people that were in the exhibits that I'm willing to talk to and learn a little bit more about what they were there for and stuff. And I think that we need that. So I think we need some more possibilities to come from this. Like you said, it's really 15-minute speed dating session with the ministers. It's a big portion of AMO, but it's not the only thing. And there's a lot of other things going on, and I think that we could benefit from the extra help, whether it be commissioners or staff from delegates from the commissioner's office or something like that. But I leave that to you guys to just hopefully encourage that a little bit next year. But thank you both so much. You did very well. Thanks.
Councillor Medeiros?
Thank you, through the chair. I guess first, thank you, Lowell, for the presentation. Not having attended or participated, it was all the information, all the notes that you prepared. Thanks to members of council who attended the conference and pushing the agenda and advocating. Just the only comment I'd like to make, I know how defeated or depleted or deflated that sometimes folks feel when we go through these intergovernmental exercises. But having worked on the other end and having attended AMO as a bureaucrat and being part of these meetings, some of this information that we think that from a political perspective there was no impact. I can tell you from a technical perspective, they capture this information. It goes there. It's something that it's on record. And notwithstanding, when our staff work with them to push forth the agenda and put forth some of these issues, that stuff is there. So it's important. So we can't, there's not that immediate reaction. There's a big process, like we have a process. And, for future reference, it's always good to keep hammering at it and keep showing and keep pushing forth the agenda. So, we did yeoman's work, and sometimes you don't see the results immediately. But in a couple of years, that could be a discussion piece, what triggered at AMO, and you get 7 members of council or 6 members of council to show up at an AMO. Cabinet ministers pay attention to that stuff. So way to go, and thank you. So,
Councillor Moore?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Medeiros. And there's no question that the staff are attentive and they take their notes, and they. I think for me, the one delegation that we made that was really, well, there were a couple that were shocking, but the one in particular was the one on regional governance, because I raised the issue of the Region of Peel Act, and the folks on the other side of the table kind of went, wow, what is that? And, it was P.A. Rinaldi, same individual we met with last year that gave us our marching orders. And I know that a lot of things go through their brain cells from one year to the next. But, there's not a lot of the city of Brampton's sitting across from them making that kind of an ask. But for me, it was really shocking that they didn't seem to be aware. In fact, the mayor had to remind them of, the bill number 151, I think it is, for the Region of Peel Act, that they were worried about precedent setting. I get that, but when you have a specific piece of legislation specific to the Region of Peel, you can make changes to that as a province without setting precedents across other municipalities. So I think that's what Councillor Gibson was referring to. It was like we sat there, quite frankly, dumbfounded that we had sat there a year ago with the same message, talked about the Region of Peel Act, and this year they didn't seem to know anything about it. So that was just kind of, you know, it was disappointing and didn't give us the confidence that you speak about, that they actually heard us last year and acted on it. They gave us some marching orders, we did it, and it was kind of like, well, we'll send you off to do it again. It was like Groundhog Day, quite frankly. So anyways, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move the chair be heard. Well, I think that the issue of governance, I'm not ready to give up. Anybody else? No. Okay. So we need a strategy to move forward. And I mean, we have yet to meet with our MPPs to have the discussion. I think that is imperative and it needs to happen now, sooner rather than later. Yeah, and the next thing is I think we should be demanding a meeting with the Premier. How do we get that? Anybody have any insights? I mean, we really, as a council, should be asking to speak to the Premier, because right now, that's the only way we are going to get the change to happen. So, you know, I keep asking for meetings with our MPPs. I think that we need to do it and not talk about it anymore. Let's do it. But I think more importantly, we need to start making a request to the Premier of the province to meet with us regarding governance. So,
Sorry, not to jump the gun, but if you've had a chance to look at my government relations matters, there's actually one of those items in there is actually to host a MPP briefing session in the fall. So perhaps through a motion, we can start that process. And I guess for the Premier, we can definitely reach out to request a meeting urgently because of the expeditious nature of this specific issue.
so if I could, with the support of council, I would really like to have an appropriate motion drafted for council to endorse at our meeting. And that motion would be, as you've stated, Lowell, to have a meeting with the MPPs in regards to regional governance, but also that we request a meeting of the Premier immediately. I mean, ideally, it would be nice if she met with all of us, but certainly some representatives of Brampton, the mayor and some representatives of Brampton Council. I don't think we can wait any longer. It's come down to the wire, and it's more than obvious. The Minister of Municipal Affairs had no idea the situation that Brampton was in based on his response to my question. He was oblivious to it. And Lou Rinaldi, unfortunately, I missed that meeting because I didn't look at my BlackBerry at the time, unfortunately. But from all accounts that you've all given me, he didn't even remember the presentation at Bill 168. Well, that doesn't do too much for my ego. He didn't remember it. I know I didn't, because he didn't remember it. So I thought I did okay. So I don't know what we do, but we have got to demand attention by the province, by the Premier, and I'm not the one to say how we do that, but certainly we need to, I think, involve our MPPs first, and the office of the mayor, perhaps our CAO, to try and get a meeting with the Premier. And I think we should just be calling it, it's an urgent matter. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Clerk, could we request that the appropriate motion be drafted by staff for presentation at council? Okay, good. Okay, I'm getting a consensus nod. Yeah. Well, yeah. A request.
They come back and say, no, we can't meet all together because of timelines, but we still want a meeting.
Yeah, the problem probably with putting them together is the Premier will say, meet with the MPPs. And they'll deliver the message, so, anyway. Okay, Councillor Sprovieri?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that, we've been spinning our wheels last term, this term. I don't believe the province really has a stomach to really interfere. I think that the only way to resolve this, and I've said this before, we have to take some radical action, and that's boycott the regional meetings. Shut down the region until Mississauga comes around and says, okay, let's talk. Maybe can I ask a question to our solicitor about whether such a strategy, how it would affect us as councillors here, as city councillors and regional councillors, what the ramifications may be, and whether he can look into this and perhaps report back as to whether this is probably the last approach we can take, to resolve this problem. We get a review from our solicitor.
If it's council's will, legal services would be pleased to report back on that subject.
I would move that that would be part of so we can ask for the meeting with the Premier, and also for the solicitor to look into what the ramifications are if we boycott the region, and until Mississauga comes around to talk to us about a solution. Okay.
Mr. Schlang?
Through you, Chair, I would feel the one motion asking the meeting for the Premier might actually get the MPPs to the table, because we've tried to approach the MPPs and they haven't. So your motion combining an urgent meeting with the Premier is important, because then maybe it'll finally get the MPPs to the table, even if she says go see them first. Because we've tried. We've invited several, since I've started here, I've tried to get the MPPs to meet with us and they haven't agreed. Okay. So that motion, I wouldn't mind if the council would consider that we try that first before we get the solicitor to look at that, because province, anyone you negotiate never wants to feel threatened. So I thought, let's try, an urgent meeting with the Premier as a first step. And if we don't hear anything, and when we report back at the end of October or September,
well,
we could talk about the second item.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but in the meantime, it wouldn't hurt for the solicitor to do a little bit of groundwork and just see, in case that fails, he's already done his research, and I think that's personally, I think that's the only way that we're going to get some attention, because I don't believe that the province has a stomach to really interfere.
I would just want council to make that, because the solicitor is pretty busy, but if council directs us to do that research concurrently, then we would abide by that.
Okay, well, I put that motion forward.
Councillor Gibson?
Harry, because that was one of my concerns. I think, Councillor Sprovieri, we need to not just ask staff to look at one thing. I think we need to ask them to look at options. Rather than just boycotting could be one of the options in it. But there may be some, I'm fearful that if we just boycotted, we'd be falling into Mississauga's hands and what they're trying to accomplish. And we all know they'd want to get out of region appeal. So if we boycott and put the region to a halt, they'd probably be going, hey, this is great. This is what we've been trying to do all along. I don't know. But there may be some options that maybe staff can come back with in helping us get to the goal what we want to get to. But I agree with Harry. I think we should, I've given up on the MPPs. If you recall, we tried to have a meeting with the MPPs at the beginning of this term. How many showed up? Two. They're not interested in meeting with us. Come on. And at that meeting, I remember the two that were there asked us to send us all the information. Do you recall that? I do. And we sent them all the information. Do we ever hear back? As a council, we didn't. They're not interested in meeting with us, so waste of time to ask the MPPs to come. We go directly to the Premier and say, we want a meeting. We're not requesting a meeting. We want a meeting with the Premier, and I think Harry's right. We'll probably find we might get the MPPs coming too. But it's time to stop. Councillor Miles, you said it not too long ago. We're too Canadian sometimes. You know, we're just too nice, and look where it's got us. Delays for 12 years. It's been going on for a long time. This isn't something that's just come up. I remember the last term of council, them saying to his wife, you just come at the last minute. At the last minute? Holy cow, this has been going on for so many years. Come on. Let's stop the agony. And all I want is yeah, we're going to do something, or yeah, we're not. And if they say they're not going to do something, then fine, then we know where we stand. Right now, we have no clue. We keep asking. We don't know. Thank you.
Councillor Palaszczuk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion that staff is going to prepare for us, we'll have that ready for next council meeting next week. Peter will have that ready in 2 minutes.
Through you, Madam Chair, many motions have been drafted in the past and will be looked at, and if that's the will of this committee to have another motion drafted for council next week, then that can be done.
I think, well, it can't be ratified here today anyways, so
No, that's
a
what I had
proper
asked.
motion brought, I just wanted to make sure that it's going to be next week. And then will that meeting, I know you had mentioned, I don't know if there's any councillor around this table that doesn't want to attend that meeting. So is that meeting going to look like a workshop? So we can get, I want to be there. I'm sure every member of council around this table wants to be there. So the only way to accomplish that is a special council meeting or a workshop, correct? Is that the way it's going to look like, or you're gonna look into it?
Through you, Madam Chair, we'll look into that.
Okay, and then with boycotting and just with the solicitor being prepared, I don't necessarily see the need for you to report back on anything as of yet. Just be prepared if the question comes up is kind of what I was thinking. Not necessarily a full blown out report. Just be prepared, because the question's going to come up, and I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say it's going to be him asking the question. So, and if it's not him, I'll ask him. So, and then I don't know if it looks like we request the MPPs to come and the the Premier, or the separate. I don't know what that looks like, but from the comments that I've been hearing is we've reached out. Councillor Gibson's right. We did set up a meeting where only 2 MPs showed up and MPPs showed up, and we didn't really have anything that came back to us. Now I'm hearing that you guys have requested meetings. Can I have some of that? Can we have that information come, like some of the hard emails, responses that you guys have sent back, what you've received, just so we have that to include in, Madam Premier, this is what we've tried to do. This is the response we're getting. This is what we want, kind of thing. If we can have some of that back up.
Through you, Chair, where there is a response, we can look for a follow-up trail.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, you're welcome. So, move the chair be heard again. Thank you. I'm not looking for a 3-page resolution of council. I think it's got to be really simple, that we've gone through the process, and without success, and we demand a meeting with the Premier to discuss the issue. I did take notes when she was speaking. She talked about fairness and equity, and that was part of her presentation to the delegation at AMO. And I think along the lines of what we said in the question is you have made right the representation for your provincial representatives. will you not do so for us at the regional level? I mean, that really, they fixed it for themselves. They need to recognize and fix it for us. So there's that. If we're looking at scenarios, I would like to know what would happen if we simply elect 10 regional councillors, 1 per ward. 1, 2.
Through you, Madam Chair, there is no basis in legislation to do that. So those would be offices that can't be contested in an election.
Okay, so somehow so now we elect 5, appoint 1.
That's correct.
So if we decided that we were just going to all run as regional councillors, we couldn't do that?
Through you, Madam Chair, without reading the legislation, I believe the Act says that there shall be 7 representatives at the region, of which 1 is the mayor. I don't think it's specific to regional councillors by ward. So if council were to reevaluate its governance structure, and look, there are lots of scenarios out there for election at large for councillors. But that, I will remind committee, we are 3 months to the end of the year. That is a large task to occur that also would require approval by this council, a statutory public meeting, the opportunity for appeal by the public, an Ontario Municipal Board hearing. All that has to be completed by the end of this year.
Okay, so just from my perspective, we have 2 problems. One, we don't have enough seat at the region. That's one problem. The other problem is that we have dual representation, where each member of council has to represent 2 wards, and if this term is an example of how it works, we know it doesn't. So if there's a possibility of moving to a model where we elect 10 regional councillors and 7 go to the region on some kind of a rotational basis, maybe that could be the first step to get support, because I don't think Mississauga's going to care as long as we don't increase our representation. Then we could at least fix our council where we have 1 regional councillor for 1 regional city councillor for every ward, and we rotate our seats at the region. That's because at least we can fix, in that way we'd be fixing half of the problem.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe that question of rotating regional councillors was discussed the last term of council through the Regional Representation Task Force, and the legal instruments are not in effect to allow that to occur. And I don't believe they have changed with Bill 68.
So could we not, if the region of Peel was the agreement, we couldn't do that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe it's still the legislation that prevails.
I know I'm grasping at straws, but it's just, we're down to the wire. We're going to end up with this sitting in the same situation next election if we do not react or find some kind of resolution right away. So I guess the first step is, let's start with the Premier and then explore other alternatives. So, Councillor Dillon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for whatever it's worth, you could have, for example, in some similar-sized cities, Surrey in particular, they don't have a ward system. But if you could have 1 per ward each, you run 1 per ward, and then even have council selects the 7 regional representations, so the regional representatives, so they could be representing citywide. Just throwing it out there as something, but I do think there's a sense of urgency now to get something done. I'm hopeful we can get some more representation there, though. Just a thought.
But I mean, you have city, and then you have the council select 7.
Okay, so the motion that the clerk has written, and I am assuming that we're going to ask for it to be finessed a little bit, is that an invitation be sent to the Premier of Ontario requesting an urgent meeting with Brampton City Council representatives for immediate action to achieve fair and equitable city representation at Regional Council. Okay? So I'll take a mover, Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Gibson. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Well, at least we don't give up easily. Thank you. Oh, okay. Could I have a motion then to receive Lowell's presentation on the Association of Municipalities for 2017? Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is 8.2, unless that was it. Yeah, 8.2. Oh, it's the city of... I've got things not jiving here. Okay, 8.2.1 was in camera. 8.2.2 is, in consent. 8.2.2 is a report on Brampton's consultation feedback on cannabis. Any questions, comments? I take a motion to receive the report. Moved by Councillor Wellens, seconded by Councillor Medeiros. All in favor? That's carried. The next is, we have the summary of meetings. 8.2.3. Okay, that's moved by Councillor Medeiros. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have an added item, which is governance. Oh, we don't do governance relations here, do we? No. Okay. So under new business. Sorry, I thought that was in camera. Okay. 8.4.1 is correspondence on the Good Moves movement from Regional Council. Their strategic plan is here for receipt. Moved by Councillor Wellens, seconded by Councillor Peleche. All in favor? That's carried. And a report on the Provincial Disaster Recovery and Assistance Program, here for your information as well. Moved by Councillor Fortini, seconded by Councillor Bowman. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have Councillor's question period. Are there any questions? I do have one question for Mr. Sutton, and it's in regards to infrastructure levy. So perhaps I'll direct it through to you. At the beginning of this term of council, Brampton did implement an infrastructure levy to help deal with capital programs. The media keeps reporting that this is an initiative of this term of council, when in fact the infrastructure levy that was implemented has been an ongoing program of the City of Brampton, where we had taken a break. So I would like to have a report come back, please, that shows that the municipality has not been negligent in the responsibilities when it comes to collecting for infrastructure. In fact, it has been a protocol that was implemented by the past council. Okay, just to clear up that once and for all. I don't want to keep reading that past councillors have been negligent in their responsibilities, when in fact we did have many levies for infrastructure in the past. Okay, thank you. So moving on then to any other questions? No? Okay. we'll pass it over then to Councillor Willens for Public Works.
Thank you. We are now at the part of the meeting of the Public Works and Engineering section. The first number of reports are in consent. The first report we are dealing with is 9.2.5. Are there any recommendations from staff about the all-way stop review in various wards, locations 1, 6, and 9? Are there any questions from any members of council? Moved by Councillor Gibson. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The next report is another report is general traffic bylaw, 9.2.6. On the general traffic bylaw, I do have a question, just a quick one, on Schedule 7. Schedule 7 on the load restrictions on Heritage Road. With the restrictions being taken off, do you know, you don't have to report now, you can send it to me by email or something, or to council. What's the new load restrictions between Mayfield and Embleton, and does the restriction stay the same between Embleton and Steeles? Do you know, or do you want to send it to me?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to you, Mr. Chair. We're gonna have to send it to you.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, no problem, because I'm sure we'll probably get some questions from the public out there. So, does anybody want to move 9.2.6? Councillor Paleshi, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. 9.2.7 is a report from traffic operations technologist, the alternate process consideration for all-way stop signs in Ward 9. Does anybody, you want to move that one? Thank you. Moved. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Next report is a budget amendment for capital project Neighborhood Parks Northwest Brampton Development Inc. Phase 2 Park Block 433 Register Plan M 1986 Ward 6. Moved by Councillor Paleshi. All those in favor? Thank you very much. The next two are in consent. We have no correspondence. 9.4.1, oh sorry, there is correspondence. 9.4.1, the region appeal. Does anybody have any questions on that? Moved by Councillor Paleshi. All those in favor? Thank you. Is there, council question period, 9.5. Councillor Moore. Sorry, Councillor Miles. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't believe it's, well, I know it's not in the right area, but it has to do with economic development and our communications department. I had asked for a organization structure of our communications department and budget with the breakdown some months ago, and I haven't received that yet, and I would like to have that information sooner rather than later.
Harry?
Through you, yeah, we were presenting that at the Member Services Committee on Monday.
So we're going to get the whole breakdown and structure of the...
Well, the functions that communications performs in the budget, not so much the names, but yeah.
Okay, well, what I'm really interested in, though, is an organizational chart so that I can see the hierarchy and the positions. I don't care about the people's names, but I would like to know what the positions are and what their responsibilities are, and then an overall budget of the department.
Yeah.
Okay? Thanks.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know whether staff can answer this today, but it would be through you to Commissioner Meneses. Down at the 407 and the 410, there is a huge pile of fill or aggregate that's right behind the Powerade Center. Is that on our land? Do we know what it is? Over the course of the summer, I've seen the pile grow and grow and grow. It's taller than the barn that's at the property at the south end of the Powerade Center now.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was a deal made between the Powerade people, the City of Brampton, and MTO
regarding using that area for a staging area for the construction of Highway 410. And so there's an agreement in place, and so all of that area will have to be cleaned up at the end of the day.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I asked the question then, because I've had people ask me, and I don't know. First of all, at first I didn't really see it, but now it's so large that you can't miss it. Are they paying us a huge sum of money for it, the agreement? No, I guess not. They'd say you're getting the 410. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Ward. Councilor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe, you said 410. When's that supposed to be done?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I use the 410 pretty much every day. I just pray to God every time I go there. They still have quite a bit of work to do. And one of the ramps that I use all the time is the one going eastbound on the westbound on the 401 and then going north on the 410. It's down to one lane. It's pretty bad in the mornings, but it's even worse at night. People are trying to get home. They've got a lot of paving still to do. They still have a lot of other work. It doesn't look like they're going to get finished this year.
When was the expected completion date?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as far as I know, it was supposed to have been 2018, and that's still on.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the chair be heard? I have a question.
No.
Thank you. Joe, while we're on the subject of the 410, can you find out, I guess through you, can you find out there's some lighting issues on the north part of 410, the last extension, before you get into Valleywood, so it'll be north of Mayfield before you come in. Well, no, it's part of Brampton still. There's a problem with it's dim lighting. I don't think the light standards have been installed there yet. Everything's there. There's an issue because there's animals crossing there. A resident called the other day. Well, I think it's south of Mayfield Road. But look, can you look into it for us anyway, Joe? Thanks. Okay, we're on to 10.1. Oh, sorry, Councilor Fortini.
I thought it was a question period.
It is.
Yeah. So you went to 10.1. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you through the chair. Joe, when we remove sidewalks, quick question. How do we determine which ones to move? Is it they go up and down, or it goes by age?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's a number of criteria. If there's spalling, just through weather, so we looked at spalled sidewalks, so where the top layer comes off and it's rough. If there's a crack and the crack is actually moved, and the crack has to be over a certain so many millimeters in movement, or if there's differentiation in the actual segments of sidewalk, 3/4 of an inch or greater. And we usually remove and replace during a resurfacing contract, because when we come on a street, we like to do the street and not come back to that street for 20 years. So we fix everything on the street, curb, sidewalk, and the asphalt, of course.
And I get, so what we do, like there's areas where the sidewalks really sank and the grass is higher. And like yesterday, a big storm, you get this much water. That will freeze always in the winter.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that's another criteria. If there's ponding problems on the sidewalk, those are also ones that we look at. And if it's not part of the resurfacing program, then we also have a program where we actually maintain sidewalks, and we do that in a number of ways. We either put an asphalt fillet so people don't trip over edges. We either grind a sidewalk. We either pump them up. We actually put grout underneath the sidewalk. And in the worst case, we actually replace it.
Yeah. So yesterday I was driving on North Park. So we're removing the sidewalks from Torbram all the way to Bramley Road, which look pretty good. Last year we did Villanova and Greenbrier, which is sunk, and we did all the new curbs and asphalt, and there's pieces of asphalt in the sidewalks up and down. So, like, how do they terminate which one to remove? How come we didn't do that at the time because it's like this much water? How much can we jack it up?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I'm going to have to get back to you on that specific case. I just don't know.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. No more questions. We'll move on to the referred matters list. Anybody have any questions on the referred matters, 10.1? Seeing no questions, government relations. That's, any questions on 11.1? Could I have somebody move it? Councilor Moon, would you like to move it? Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Public question period. This is regarding any decision made at this meeting. Are there any questions from the public? Seeing none, we will now move into closed session. We have two items, 13.1, the board proposed and pending acquisition of disposition of land by a municipality or local board. And 13.2, is it, Peter?
13.2, Mr. Chair, is a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board as well.
Are we moving upstairs?
Yes.
Okay, we're moving upstairs. 10 minutes, good? Okay. Thank you.